Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Articulate. This is Anna Gallagher. How you doing today, Anna?
I'm great. Had a long day at school. Happy to be here.
Got in a fight, a couple fights, and then
Got in a fight.
Yeah.
Ended that fight.
Ended that fight. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. But yeah, so we are here today to talk about birthing order. Is that
birth
correct?
order.
Birth order. I didn't even realize when I was like kind of researching it a little bit, but it really is like another way to identify like personality traits.
Yeah, people are really
general.
into it.
Yeah, it's like Zodiac or what's the other one? Like INFPs, you know,
Mhm.
the Myers-Briggs test, all that. I had no idea. It's crazy. But there's like a Stuff You Should Know podcast, on it, and it's going to be way better than this one, but, it's fun.
Wait, no, what? That one doesn't have us on it.
True. That is true.
That sucks.
But yeah, so why was this the topic for you that kind of came to mind?
Yeah, because I feel like, again, because like you said, it's like a personality trait thing, which I feel like people love talking about, people love to be categorized and to be like, that's so me.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's a fun thing. And then also it has to do with your family. And I feel like I could talk about my family for hours. And I'm obsessed with, I guess also I thought about it because when I first meet someone, I really like to ask like how many siblings they have and where they are in the siblings. Because I feel like that just does say a lot about the person.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess like when you were growing up, so yeah, what's your family background?
Oh, yeah, I guess I should say. So I'm one of 5 siblings.
Okay.
I grew up mostly with my 3 brothers, so we're all 2 years apart.
Okay. Yeah, so break us down
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, so I have my older brother, Jack,
Mhm.
and then me.
Okay.
And then, so Jack 2 years, me 2 years, Timmy 2 years, Matthew.
Okay.
And then me and my little sister are 9 years apart, so my mom had a baby, like, much later.
Okay.
And so she's 9 years apart, so she's 15 now. So it's one of 5, and that's why I think my family. I feel like I have 2 youngest siblings in my family because my little brother Matthew was the youngest for 4 years.
Anna, I'm so sorry. Give me a second. We're gonna start over. I gotta turn off the AC.
Oh my God, no worries.
I'm so sorry. One more time. Run us back. All right.
Okay, run us back on the birth order.
Birth order. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You had an older brother.
Yes,
First
I have
brother.
an older brother. I'm
Okay.
like, should I be protecting their identities? Like, how does this work?
If they don't care, if
I
you don't
don't-
think they would care, then it's probably
I don't know if
fine.
th-
Also,
yeah.
this podcast has 2 listeners, so you're fine.
Okay, so it's my older brother Jack,
Right.
me, my little brother Timmy, and Matthew, and we're all 2 years apart.
Okay.
So I am the second oldest, and I was the only girl for most of my life till I was 9.
Right. So the youngest, the one that came.
The youngest is like one of the much youngers, and she is 9 years younger
Wow.
than me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do have a sister, but I grew up mostly without a sister and with 3 brothers,
Gotcha.
and we're all clumped together.
We're all cool. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, that is one of the things that I found interesting. But before we get into that, I guess I will just give my background. I
Yeah.
have an older brother who's 7 years older than me.
Oh, so
Oh.
you're like Lily.
Yeah, and then I have an older sister who's 6 years older than me, and then I'm the
Oh,
baby.
that's interesting. You're the Lily. You're the tag.
Yeah, the baby.
The
as they
tag to
would
the
call it. The
punchline,
tag to the punchline, right? So they do categorize it though. So they categorize it as like the oldest, and
Yeah.
then there's always the middle children, which can
Mhm.
vary a lot, but for the most part, middle children is the overarching term.
Yeah.
And then there's the baby.
Yeah.
So that is, again, I had no idea that people like looked into this as like, identifying factors, which is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And I do, yes, I found they also are like, that's another thing that's interesting about birth order stuff is I wonder if it applies to people with 2 kids. I think about that a lot.
Oh.
Because,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But I guess they don't have a middle. Because I do feel like the more kids you have, the more the being an oldest affects you and being a youngest affects you. Because you're even more the oldest and even more the youngest.
True. Well, yeah. So I mean, there's so many variables that go into it. You know what I
Sure.
mean? There's only children. You know what I mean? And then the twins.
Don't get me started on
The
only
gaps
children.
in the years, the gender. There's this guy that wrote a book named Dr. Kevin what is it? Oh, Kevin Lehman. Dr. Kevin Lehman. He basically said that there's like 4 or 5 major traits which is going to be that kind of change like the order and everything. So like the age gap, he says like every 4 years is basically you're starting a new family, which I find kind of weird because I still feel like the baby, but after researching some of the older traits, it kind of is like, oh, I do kind of identify
Maybe.
with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see that in my sister actually, because you would have the traits of a youngest and an oldest.
Right, exactly. It's
That's
like, but it's a
interesting.
weird mix because that's completely opposite. You know what I mean?
Right, which makes sense because like because I'm thinking about like what they say about oldest is that they're like closest to adults, so they're like more neurotic and
Mm.
have more, also usually tend to have like higher IQs because they get more like individual attention and engagement when they were younger,
Yeah.
which I don't know. Yeah, that's like the one finding that's pretty straight across the board I found.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was researching it, but basically they say youngest is supposed to be like silly and creative, and I feel like my little sister's a little bit neurotic, which is probably because she's with adults a lot
Yeah, yeah.
as she was
Silly and
growing up.
neurotic. Interesting. But so, yeah, so you're saying she kind of fulfills a different role. She's not the
Yeah.
typical older sibling.
I think she's not. I think my little sister's not the
Oh,
typical youngest sibling, which
typical
is
younger
fully
sister.
carefree, creative,
Okay.
silly.
Yeah.
She's a little bit, and that makes sense because had a lot more. She had so much attention
Right.
from all of us.
Right. And so that's kind of what the big thing with the first child is, like, it's the parents. You know what I mean? So my parents always said that the first child is like the first pancake, you throw it out. It's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
But it's true. But not all the time. So, well, the first kid is like laser focused, like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, we got to put everything into this kid, and everything is a first with that kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they're kind of, I think part of that, laser attention and laser focus does transfer onto that kid,
Right. So true. Because,
Yeah.
okay, so that's the other thing they say that, like, because I tried to see, because a lot of it is kind of like with, a lot of the stuff on birth order is like with zodiacs where it's kind of like pseudoscience, but
Yeah.
like the things that I found is the IQ thing, and then also that just like most Nobel Prize winners are firstborns,
Really?
and yeah, there's like an overrepresentation of them, and then the other one that there's a lot of firstborns, Nobel Prize. Oh, well, they tend to have higher salaries and be more successful.
Really?
Because that's the whole thing they say is that oldest have more pressure on them.
Well, yeah, that makes sense to kind of, like I said, a lot of times, especially if parents don't know, that's one of the other traits is like, if parents don't know if they're going to have more kids or not, after that, they're like, all right, this is going to be, we got to make sure this one's the good one.
True.
They do put a lot of pressure on that
Yeah.
one. The first child is typically, I don't know, my brother's a manager, you know what I mean? So he's kind of like, has always been somebody who tried to be successful on the ladder as well. But that makes sense though, because they're natural leaders, you know what I mean? Especially in a family, right? They gotta, you're put in control of your younger siblings a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah, I'm wondering, would you want to? I'm always so grateful I'm not the oldest. I feel like the
Really?
oldest is a lonely life. First of all, you were an only child for a little bit, which sucks.
that's true, but again, it does depend on like how soon the other one came along, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I do think I put myself in my brother's shoes, and I'm like, that is a lot of pressure. I think being the oldest, because you always consider yourself the more mature one. You don't have the idea of like an older sibling who's supposed to be guiding you or.
Yeah, that's true. But what I like about the older sibling is that basically, again, another thing that I read was that they learn from adults. You know what I mean? So when you're a youngest or a second, middle, younger, or whatever, you're always kind of looking up to the older sibling to be like, what should I do? And they're not an experienced adult. You know what I mean? But when you're the oldest, the only people you have to look up to is your mother, who's been, like, take something basic like, using scissors. She's been using scissors for 40 years. You know what I mean?
Super good at scissors.
Yeah, but it's like most of the people that you look up to are going to be, like experienced people like that. So a lot of the time, I find that older siblings are, well, like you said, they relate to older people a lot better. Like I said, I'm a little jealous of the older sibling. They're a lot more independent, You don't think so? You don't think
No,
that?
this is so interesting. No, I mean, I'm not even fully an older sibling, although I do identify a little bit as an older sibling because I'm an oldest daughter.
Right.
So I think I took on a lot of responsibilities that my brother doesn't take on just
Yeah.
because I'm a girl. And I had a bunch of younger siblings after.
Yeah.
So I feel like I do have some oldest sibling. Like, I definitely feel in charge of my siblings my whole life, more than my brother has. But I don't think I felt the same. I don't think I felt the same, like, pressure to succeed that my brother might have felt. But no, because it's the same thing, like you said, also with, like, you learn from adults. I feel like that makes you a little bit socially ostracized with kids. Like, I feel like the other stereotype is like younger kids are like the funny, outgoing ones that people like.
True.
Right?
Yeah, and that's one of the statistics
Because-
is the younger one is always, well, the attention seeker, but there's a lot of comedians who are youngest siblings all the time.
Yeah, I think you're just more likable if you learn from kids rather than adults.
That's funny. It's funny. I have a friend who's a teacher, kind of like you, right? And he's just like, when you hang out with people, right? Like in general, you take a lot of your life perspective off of how other people are feeling. So if you're hanging out with comics all the time, you're gonna feel depressed and sad a lot of the time. But if you're hanging out with
True.
like 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds, not 3-year-olds, but young kids all the time, but they have like a generally innocent perspective on the world, and
Yeah.
that's kind of a good thing to have. So I get where you're coming from with the younger sibling thing as well.
Mhm.
With that, another thing about being a younger sibling, maybe why they're kind of funny, is there's a lot of tension between like parents and like maybe they see that between
Yeah.
parents and like the oldest sibling, again, that pressure of trying to be a good parent, and or all the even like oldest siblings, like if there's like a spat between the first two or something like that, then you got to be the one who breaks the tension, says something kind of funny like that.
Yeah. Wait, that's also interesting. Okay, I also thought about the idea as like this is totally I haven't seen anything on this, but I'm like, okay, oldest children are born when the parents are more in love, maybe? Like they're more in the honeymoon phase.
That
And
makes
then
sense.
like, I don't know,
Wow, that's
maybe like
wild.
younger children grow up in more strife cuz I mean like my experience not my parents' marriage didn't get any better with time.
That's
So
true. Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. We could judge parents' marriages. Marriage is a whole separate thing.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
sorry.
No, well, it's because my parents, I agree, for the most part, didn't get much better. But then we all left, and then it's like, all right, they're cool now. You know what I mean? Like they were.
Well,
There was a hot minute where it was tough for a
dude, I
second.
feel so bad for my little sister because she grew up with five kids in the house and my parents.
Mm.
And then just like slowly people have left for
Mm,
college and stuff.
right.
And she's not used to it. So she got finally, my little brother just left for college last year. And she's like, it was a hard year because she's like, I'm alone with our parents suddenly.
Yeah.
And that's a situation. And
Yeah.
then
It's a whole
like,
dynamic.
yeah, and she's like, that's a different situation. And I'm used to there being like a ton of people here, and now I'm all alone. And I think there's probably a huge like abandonment thing that way younger. Well, that would be you. That way
Yeah.
younger.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah, that is crazy. So, although your siblings are a lot older than you, so I guess.
True, and I think that's kind of where like what we were talking about, how some younger siblings come into being an older sibling type or have some of the same traits, is when that gap, that 5-year gap where they were already out of the house, and then I had to live with my parents, as an only child
That's
basically, or as
yeah.
like the oldest child type of thing. So it's kind of you get the back end of that portion of things. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's I don't know. Like I said, I liked. That's the thing is I am jealous of being, like it'd be cool to be an older sibling, which you think there's a lot of pressure on that, which I
Yeah.
get for
I'm happy
sure.
now.
But
Yeah.
I don't know, I think all of them have their perks, right? I don't know. I guess middle child, it would be the least favorable for me. Which one wouldn't you want to be? Or
Oldest.
oldest for
Yeah,
sure,
because
but you would take youngest and
I would take youngest or middle.
middle for sure.
I also think like also being the oldest, I guess because like I know, although yeah, I'm one thing I think it sucks being the oldest and going through puberty first. That
Yeah.
sucks. Like my little sister, like I feel like everything was so much more destigmatized for her because I had already gone through puberty. There was already pads and tampons in the
Yeah.
house. Where for me, I was like, this is horrible, and I
Yeah.
had like only boys around me, so that was
Sure.
like traumatic. But I feel like that's a nice thing for younger siblings. They paved the way, and also there's so many things where like so it goes Jack, me, Timmy. My mom will be like, "Oh, I'm not doing that for Timmy because we did that with Jack and it didn't work."
Oh
Like she
wow.
says all like even sending to schools. She's like, "No, we're not sending Timmy there."
Wow.
Like which is like cuz like it was a bad experience for him. So.
Yeah, yeah. So what I wanted to ask is, did you find that what I found, a lot of the research did too, but kind of with my brother as well. Again, so a lot of the parenting focus goes into the first kid. Sometimes they end up as like a rule follower and kind of taking control, a little bit bossy. But sometimes they end up as like a rebel. You know what I mean? Because they kind of are like too much is forced upon them. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what happened with my brother. Is he was out of the house all the time, and going to visit friends, and he was just out. I mean, he worked a lot too. That's another reason why he is at the place where he is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But so, what do you think your oldest sibling kind of falls into?
My oldest sibling, he's really smart, which
Mhm.
is like really funny because that's like what the one of the stereotypes. He's really smart and he works really hard. He's really
Okay.
intense.
Hard workers.
Yeah, he's like in grad school now. He's like an engineer. He's very successful, and the whole rebel thing. No, I do. I honestly see me doing that more now, like because I have always felt like I said. I feel like I'm a semi oldest.
Yeah.
Because Jack that isn't nurturing, almost because he's so intense. Like I never felt like I had like he's not like I'm big brother gonna take care of my siblings guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more like big sister gonna take care of like my siblings person.
Yeah.
And so he's really intense. If anything, I feel like I would be doing the more rebelling stuff with being like, no, I'm gonna start being selfish now.
Well, you need that at some point.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like I've been taking care of people my whole life.
Yeah.
So.
That is something you have to come to terms with for sure. Well, the other thing I found out is that the second sibling often tends to be the opposite of the first one, because
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, because the first one is kind of an intense, accumulation of all of the focus and everything. So whether it turns into rebellion or strict, rule follower or worker, independent person, the other one's like, I don't want to do any of that. You know what I mean? Or like, they see how it turns out and they try not to go against that.
That's really funny because me and Jack, I would say, are very different because he, like I said, he's really intense. I'm pretty silly.
Yeah.
So
comic, yeah.
Yeah, but also in general, I don't think any of the Gallaghers would qualify as rebels. So
Really?
No,
fair enough. Yeah,
that's just because we're like dweebs. But yeah,
we're all just dweebs.
when I say like I rebel, I'm literally saying like I haven't been home for family Sunday dinner in 2 months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Man, that's great.
I know. You don't understand. You're like joking about it. I'm like, it's actually a problem. Like I got yelled at very recently for it.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, were your parents very strict growing up?
Yeah, but they were strict, but like I don't even know. Like also like we were scared. Like my mom almost didn't have to be strict just because we were like, I don't know. I would rebelling doesn't even sound fun to me. I'm like, that's scary. What if you get in trouble? I guess they're strict. I mean, well, this goes into the younger siblings thing. Like, definitely with my older brother and me and Timmy, my mom never checked our grades or anything because like we just got good grades and we're self motivated. And then with my younger brother Matthew, so this definitely goes into the birth order thing, like being the like sillier, I don't even know, less intense one. My mom is on top of Matthew's grades. Matthew's not like a school guy. Like he's the like first one out of us that is like not a school guy.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And he's the third one.
Not a school guy.
Not a school guy. Yeah, I don't do the whole school thing. I don't mess with that.
School schmool.
Yeah.
But it's not even that. It's more just he was a normal kid. He was like, oh, this isn't the most important thing in my life. Where like for some reason in 3rd grade I was like in grind mode.
Well, and so he was the technically the youngest originally,
yes,
right? Because he's right below
and
you.
he's funny. He's like a performer.
Oh.
Yeah, like he's definitely like people love Matthew. Like he is very naturally charismatic.
Okay.
He is super loud, like gets everyone's attention. Like he's very stereotypical youngest.
Youngest for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I
really
find
selfish.
personally, well, I personally find as like the youngest is like that kind of it is kind of like you have to find your own thing because the oldest of anybody older than you, they like again the first is the first and they're very intense with what they do and everything, and the second one is kind of the opposite of that, kind of like basing it off of the parents originally and then the reaction to the first one, right? And then the last one is like, well, I just want to do my own thing, you know what I mean? Like I just want to be out here like working on creative. So like again, my brother's big worker, big into the business model management, all that sort of stuff. Sister very systematic. She's really, really disciplined. Middle child, right? But again, kind of went against my brother. Was like a partier. She doesn't drink, smoke, anything like that.
All right.
And she still works very hard to achieve the things. Got like her masters and worked on that. See, that just seemed like too busy for me. It's like you guys just got a whole thing going on. Over here.
Also, you're like, I guess for you, it's like okay, my siblings like are like I don't know, maybe it's less pressure. Or you want to do your own thing?
No, definitely less pressure. And that's what I asked, like, why, like, your parents were strict.
Oh, my parents are strict because they're just, like, they're both, like, academic smart people.
Okay.
And so, like, in my, like, world, like, school was the most important thing. Especially, like, my mom, like, drilled into us from a very young age that we should need to go to a good college.
Oh, wow.
That was, like, her whole thing. But that's, like, her own, like... She grew up very poor and she went to a good college. That's like her grind.
Yeah. Well,
she really values that.
Again, that's an important thing. Of course, your parents are going to have a huge effect on you. So if that's kind of their agenda for you, then again, it's kind of your reaction to your parents' agenda at that point.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, definitely my parents had really strong influences of like school is like super important and stuff. But I'm thinking about my youngest siblings. It is funny, like, the first 3 are very, very school, very academic, and Matthew and Lily, who I consider both youngest, care less about school. I mean, they do because my parents stress them out about it,
Right.
but they're like, they have more other interests and they're more creative and silly. But yeah, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Except Lily's neurotic.
Yeah, I mean, and so that's kind of so I guess what traits do you again, I'm kind of curious, do you consider yourself a middle child fully?
That's a really good. Well, I feel like the middle child stereotype
Because
is
you
like,
said
I want
oldest sister,
attention.
right?
Yeah, I think I definitely I characterize myself more as oldest. Like I'm like yeah, just like feeling in charge of things, generally having like anxiety. They say like oldest children usually have anxiety and stuff.
I think everybody has anxiety now.
Yeah, true. I know. Feeling like in charge of people's emotions, definitely like the emotional support for most people. But I feel like that's part of being the only oldest girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the traits for middle children, at least the research that I read, it's more like peacekeeper type of moderator type of thing. It's not really attention grabber. Attention grabbing is the youngest for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, somebody that oftentimes again does feel left out sometimes, and maybe that's kind of where the attention thing comes in for you. If if you feel like your middle child, not being paid attention to it. But it's funny, middle children also think also instead of we're talking about oldest siblings hanging out with older people or adults and kind of relating to them more, middle children are known for like hanging out with their peers and getting together in groups. So what type of
peer group? I definitely always hung out with. No, actually, no. I guess this goes to mean more identifying with older children is that I love sitting in when my parents had their friends over and like listening to their conversation with adults and stuff. But I also, no, I hung out with my peers. I wasn't like friends with older kids. I was scared of older kids. Yeah,
That
no.
makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting what you said about peacekeeper, because I guess I identify middle as a peacekeeper for sure. Like, I
Right.
don't start fights in my family, and neither
Yeah.
does Timmy. Timmy is a really big peacekeeper in my family.
Sorry, because the middle children notes are on the second page, and it's
Okay.
funny because I think you might fall into a little bit more of these than you might think. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because they really do play off of the first one. That's like one of the biggest things. It's like how you reacted to your older brother versus like how it's like it says you could be a people pleaser if they were a rebel, or you could be an aggressor if they were,
Oh, so that's what it is, because
Yeah.
Jack's an aggressor.
Oh, okay.
And so I definitely am not.
Right. Do you, as a teacher, like find what grade do you teach again?
I teach all high school grades. I'm like a
Okay.
reading specialist, so I work with kids one-on-one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I
gotcha.
do like a bunch of other random stuff, like I'll teach classes, but any high school grade.
Yeah, well, I was wondering if like you decided a grade after teaching because of maybe the order that you were born in. You know what I mean?
When I chose my grade for teaching because I didn't want to do math.
That's
That's what it was.
It's just any grade, just not math.
Just if I can specialize in just English, that's what it is. But
Sure.
I kind of honestly think I would be better with younger kids. I've been thinking that recently. Because I think that I just naturally treat all kids like little kids, which is probably why some of my students hate me.
Right. Well, and that could be an older sister trait, kind of looking at children
Yeah.
like as somebody that you want to care for or somebody that you need to, be an older model for.
That's a good point. No, I'm really good with kids. I mean, and like, well, because I had this weird period of time in my life when my little sister was born when I was 9, where like that's when kids were starting to hang out with each other, just like, hey, let's go play capture the flag. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? And I literally would have to take care of my little sister. I remember one time my friend called me on our home phone and was like, hey, we're playing capture the flag. And I was like, oh yeah, I just have to put the baby down first. Like
Yeah.
because my other siblings were also little. So my dad worked and then my mom took care of the other ones and I was mainly in charge with Lily, which is cool because I love Lily. And
Yeah.
now we're super close.
Nice.
Which is weird to have so now Lily's 15 and I talk to her like my equal, but like I changed her diapers. Like so I feel like I have like a really weird half parental, half sister relationship with her,
Yeah.
which I think is special.
Yeah,
don't know,
well,
I
and I
like
think
it.
that comes with the age gap for
Yes.
sure, because that's the way that both my older brother and sister obviously have some sort of parental.
Oh,
type
really?
of-
Do you feel like they take care of you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially there was a period where I went to college, and so I was like away from my parents, like 2-3 hours away,
Mhm.
and then my brother worked in the same area, so he was around, and so it was just kind of our relationship,
Aw.
which is cool. Like we get along really well, which is awesome. But
That's so
yeah,
nice.
there is a certain amount of mentoring and parenting that goes
Yeah.
into the whole thing. Especially like if I am the one that's gonna get hurt or like get in trouble, which known for doing that as a youngest child. then he's got to be the one that steps in and helps out with that. So
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Also the intervening. Yeah. No, even now it's a little, there's like, as I got older, like there's been like weirdly some tension sometimes with my parents where like me and my mom are like both making rules for Lily and she has to be like, well, I'm her mom. And I'm like, that's so awkward.
But I'm a little sister and I know what's good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And yeah, no, no, I guess that would have been nice to have like an older person looking out for you. That would be nice, but it's cool.
Yeah, but I mean, so with your kids, like, I mean, that's what's interesting to me about teaching is that you literally are parenting these kids a lot of the day. You're with these kids
Yeah.
8 hours a day. It's crazy.
True. Wow. I honestly had never even thought about that. Like how it's like just another caretaker position.
Right.
Probably should have thought about that before, but I really didn't.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, you just kind of went into it as like something that you wanted to do, which is a good way to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that is an older sibling mindset type of thing to do that. You know what I mean? To be like, all right, this is something that I want to work at and get good at and do with my life. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel because you only have like 2-year age gaps, do you feel that makes you closer to your closer siblings?
Yeah, because so I'm not super close with my older brother because we're very different. But I'm really close with my little brother Timmy, who's 2 years younger than me. So that means I'm 4 years apart from Matthew. Definitely more of a distance between me and Matthew because I see him more like a little kid, where me and Timmy are more like equals.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I think that slowly closes, especially with college.
True. That is like another thing, like things that you have to deal with as a sibling as you reach a certain age. So, of course, a lot of people, as college comes around, it's kind of a big moment when you start seeing the people as like adults.
Yeah, for some reason,
Also,
it's such a
21.
thing.
Yeah.
21.
21's a big age.
I remember I went to like a neighborhood. My neighborhood has this like party every Christmas, and I went when I turned 21. It was such a shift. Like all the adults who I called like Mr. So and so, Mrs. So and so were like cursing around me and handing me beers, and I suddenly was like the belle of the ball. I was like, this is so weird, and it's literally just because I turned 21.
I like that though. That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like as a youngest, it's like I always wanted to be like accepted by my older brother and sister, and like hang out with them and be friends with their friends, and I always like admired them and everything. So it's like once older people started actually acknowledging me as a person, that it's so validating. That's all we want as babies. You know what I mean?
See, I'm so not sensitive to the baby thing because I'm like Lily always like says stuff about being the baby. Like her big thing is she hates when we talk about before she was born. Do you get that with your siblings? Do you get jealous? Like we talk about things we did. We're like, oh my God, remember when we did this? And Lily's like, I literally wasn't there. I always think is so funny. And like she gets really sad, which I don't know why. I just don't feel bad. It just makes me laugh. But I think I don't feel bad because I'm like, girl, I've been taking care of you your whole life. It's fine. Yeah. So do you get sad about that? Like that your siblings like were straight chilling before you got there?
I mean, kinda. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they were, but the thing is, again, there's only 3, so the first 2 they were opposites. You know what I mean? They weren't always at ends with each other, but they were at ends with each other sometimes. You know what I mean? It's probably a similar way you feel about your older brother, like you said. So it's like I was jealous that again I wanted to just be part of the conversation, as opposed to just like, I mean, that's one of the things that like the youngest is like kind of has to deal with is like, little baby can't do anything. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I can do things. I do things too. I have thoughts. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm totally on the other side of this. It's so fun to make fun of the younger sibling for not. We have such a joke in my house that Lily can't read. I'm so sorry. No, it's just funny hearing you say that. I should be nicer to Lily.
I can't read either. It's fine.
Like even to this day, when Lily does things, I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, she is also pretty incompetent because she, like Lily asks me, she's like, can you, like, I make Lily cereal when I'm at home because she's like, I can't pour milk. Because people pour milk for her whole life.
She doesn't know how to pour milk?
She might do it now.
She should learn how to pour milk.
I know, no, but I'm being serious.
You gotta cut a line off it somewhere, you know what I mean? You could be a baby to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. So it's like the youngest like always have, what is it? Is youngest always want to, they're not taken seriously by their families or by the world. So they have a burning desire to make an impact and, realize youngest people always realize that they're the youngest and unequipped for the world, but we always want to make an impact and like prove
Oh.
to everybody that we are more than just nothing. So it's like I literally moved to Philadelphia from Ohio to be like, I can do things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Wait. That
I
makes
can't
sense.
do things, you know. I do
Good.
things
No,
sometimes.
you can pour milk, definitely.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting that like what I've talked to my older sister about this a little bit too, is like I was trying to relate to her like why, because so this is something again kind of going from the original question as to why I asked your parent, you know, if your parents were strict, is because my parents were very strict on the first two kids and not as strict on me. And so my brother was a big partier, but he didn't get in, like he got in trouble with my parents, but not the law as much. Sister, pretty straight, you know, athletic, or, you know, again, kind of the opposite of my older brother, trying not to be, you know, he was considered the black sheep at first, but then I come along, they're not as strict with me. I went to jail, you know what I mean? I was like drinking and smoking and doing things really early on, you know?
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out why did I identify with, I started hanging out with like skaters when I was like super young.
Ooh, skaters, that's a slippery slope.
I love skaters,
One
dude.
might
They're
say
they're
you
the coolest.
can skate down that slope.
Yeah, that's true. But I was trying to like talk about it with my older sister. I was like, dude, I think it's because like I felt like I was never a part of the conversation and I wanted to be taken seriously by somebody. And she's like, "What do you mean? You always got all the attention and everything." You know, she's like, "What do you like? You were the one." And I'm
Like,
like,
maybe if you talked to me, I wouldn't have gone to jail.
exactly. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so I mean, do you find like when your younger siblings try to plead the youngest sibling that you're like, well, all right.
Yeah, no, yeah. Lily always, yes. She's very much like, please include me, please take me seriously, please stop reminiscing on things that we weren't there for. I'm trying to think of like a specific like younger sibling thing too, where we're like, okay, Lily, like she's like a baby. I never thought, yeah, I do, like Lily's gonna turn 16 this year, which means she can drive a car, which is crazy. And I don't think she'll be allowed. But in terms of being strict with rules, this is what you were talking about. I think it's a weird mix where Lily always had exceptions to the rules because she was the youngest, and like this is such a specific example that you can tell I'm butthurt about, but like when we went out to restaurants, we weren't allowed to get soda. Like that would be a crazy ask. Like because like my mom made me think that soda costed like $1 bajillion and would instantly kill you.
Yeah.
And Lily, because she is so much, also because she'd have to buy 4 sodas. But with Lily being younger, and we're all like, oh, Lily's the baby, we'll let her have her soda. First of all, she doesn't just get soda, she gets Shirley Temples.
Wow.
That's like her drink of choice.
See, I don't like that. I don't mess with that. That is spoiled.
Yes, that's the spoiled. She gets the Shirley Temple. She gets it every time.
We get nothing.
Yeah, I got nothing. So like she has like little exceptions. She's spoiled with like rules like that. Like my parents buy her things that I never would have asked for, because I grew up always being like, whatever I get, it affects 4 people, where Lily has all these little exceptions. But now Lily is like crumbling because she has both my parents' eyes on her, and my parents are not handling becoming empty nesters very well.
Oh no.
So they're like double downing on controlling her. Yeah. So it's
you're gonna
like
start a lot of family drama with this.
I know. I just realized that.
That's what I was a little worried about.
No. Honestly, I said what I said. So, so no, and also like, it's true. It's not good or bad. It's just true.
Yeah, it's just facts.
So she has a lot of parental control now, which she's also upset about.
Yeah, a lot of parental control, which I don't know. Again, I think it's important to have your parents' attention, especially on the back end. It worked well for me because I was getting in trouble a lot, and then they realized that, and they're like, maybe we should laser focus a little bit more on like what he's doing, which made me actually, instead of just going out and hanging out with a bunch of degenerates, they were like, you should learn an instrument, or you should join a club, like you should do these things. And it ended up working out really well for that. I found a lot of passions and things that I wanted to do that way,
Yeah. I do think I got away in terms of watching. Like, I got away with a lot when I was still in my parents' house because my parents were focused on my younger siblings more. Nice. Which is nice. I had a good balance.
But you felt, yeah, exactly. But you still kind of felt the pressure to, because they were, like, paying attention to them, you had to be the one that was, like, held together by yourself. Yeah. Again, why I'm a little bit jealous of older siblings, because they were just, like, kind of self-motivated and very independent and try to make control for themselves.
Yeah.
For me, I was just out of control, and I didn't want to stop. I still don't want to stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but I think the birth order thing is just it gives me like a good picture of people like when I first meet them to ask.
Mm.
But also like I said, it's fun to be categorized and compare
True,
and
true.
stuff.
So yeah, one of the things I was gonna mention earlier, but kind of how basically the birth order affects you later in life, right? As you reach, certain after you are getting treated like an adult already. But as an adult, there's a lot of the time where the oldest sibling has to come to terms with, forgiving their parents because they were the first, and the parents probably made a lot of decisions that they considered to be rash or irrational.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hmm.
That's also a very mature I think that's one of the like worst things about growing up is feeling like getting angry at your parents for things and feeling like
Yeah.
they you have to forgive them.
Yeah.
That stinks.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's your parents literally made you and created you as a person, and to see that play out as it does with your life, which is literally what happens. It just plays out. I think that's a personal belief because I don't know, free will is iffy, but we don't have to get into that. There's an episode on that with Josh
Josh
Kleckner.
Kleckner.
Yeah, did you listen to that?
Oh yeah,
That
obviously
was
it's
a
Josh
great episode.
Kleckner.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. But yeah, I think a lot of times you basically are just playing out what you were set up with when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And so it's like a lot of that is if you're an older sibling and you do find that you have a trait that you're maybe putting on your family or something that was inherited because your parents had so much pressure on you. So you're putting a lot of pressure into your kid. It's like, well, I have to forgive my parents for doing that so that way I don't project it onto other people. You know what I mean?
I also think the more siblings you have, like I've found, I don't know if this is true or not, but I have a theory that like when there's a lot of siblings, the siblings are closer, and when there's only two siblings, they're less close, which was weird. You would think they would be more close.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense, though.
I know, but I don't know why. I think I don't know why, but I know it's true.
Do you want to hear my theory?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have a lot of kids, right? There's
Okay.
a lot to take care of. You gotta bring in a lot of money, right? So you're probably grinding a lot as a parent, right? So if you have a lot of kids, grinding a lot, they're not gonna be hanging out with the kids as much, or you have a lot of other things to worry about, cleaning the house. So all the kids kind of have to like worry about themselves within their own little world.
It's like a Little Rascals vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. I think it's the Little
Rascals.
Rascals effect because that's how I feel with my siblings. I'm like, me and my siblings are our own political band, and my parents are their own political band. But I feel like if it's just two, it's just more egalitarian, and you're all just people, and you all have your own room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's very different, and I think it makes you less close. Like it should be more close. Honestly, whenever there's two siblings and they're super close, I'm like, it seems fake for some reason.
Well, it's kind of like, I mean, it depends on your definition of close, right?
True.
Because then at that point, it's like, yeah, maybe we're, like the original group, like you said, you're, separate a political party from your parents versus like the group of kids, right? But when you have that, they're close, and then they have their own relationship with that parent. But that relationship with the parent, right? And when it's just like a single kid or, two single kids, something like that, it's close in a different way because, again, you're kind of seeing them as another person or another party or something like that,
It's like probably how only children are. Like their parents aren't
Right.
so much their parents. Their parents are their parents and a little bit their siblings.
Their roommates, their siblings. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so interesting. And
Okay.
I just think it makes like siblings more of a thing. That's another thing. I think it's interesting. Like, do you see your sibling friendships as very, very different than your friendship? Like, think about your best friend and a sibling you're close with. Are those relationships similar at all, or totally different but equally close, or not even close to being as close?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
How do you think? What do you think?
Genius. So I think that they're totally different.
Okay.
Like I'm thinking about my best friend that I'm like the most close with, like feel so comfortable with her, love her so much, really just like love. And also like I think for me closeness is not like being able to like be mean to someone and be real and be quiet with them and just sit and chill. But I still think sibling is different because I'm like, we have this shared experience. And also I think about this a lot with relationships. Like it's literally the like exposure. Like you just cannot replace living in the same house with someone. Like that lets you know them in a different way.
True.
But that's also just me because some people are like, no, I'm not myself with my family. So it's more like, who do you feel like you're yourself with?
Well, then you have to define who you are as a person, and that's really hard in itself. I don't even know who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How
I feel like I'm definitely going through a period of trying to define myself outside of my family.
old are you now?
I'm 25. I just turned 25.
Okay, yeah, that's about.
You didn't say happy birthday to me.
Is it your birthday?
No,
You just turned.
it was August 8th.
That's not your birthday. I'm gonna have to say there's a cutoff period. We don't have to. My birthday was 2 weeks ago. Not
No
even 2 weeks.
way.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no,
my
it's
bad.
fine. I'm not gonna return it anyway.
Sorry.
But you're 25, so I feel like I'm kind of going through something, similar as well as like, also moving out to Philly, away from my family and
Yeah.
away from the place that I grew up in, the original friends that I made. Who am I out in the world?
Yeah. I'm kind of, so we are different because like I don't feel like I moved away from my family. My family lives 20 minutes away in the suburbs.
But you still have to define. There was probably a point where it's like, all right, I'm out here. I'm an adult, right?
Yeah, I guess, but not even. So when I went to college with my little brother Timmy, and like I saw him all the time, and I talked to my mom. Like my family was just made it like in my life, and
Okay.
then and college just felt like being temporarily away from my family, and I always knew I was gonna come back.
Oh,
Like that was
interesting.
just not even a question for me. Like I just knew it was important for me to be with my parents and Lily.
Yeah.
So college just felt like temporary. It didn't feel like the start of my life. And then like I came back to Philadelphia and I graduated in the pandemic. So I went home all the time with the pandemic.
Mm,
And then this past year was the first year where it felt like everything was open. I could do stuff, which is when I started doing stand up,
right.
which is,
And that's kind of a big thing. Like,
That's-
that was a big thing for you, right?
yeah, that's like so much less time with my family. So that's why I feel like I was saying like now
Mm,
I feel like I'm defining myself outside of my family. And it's been
Right.
really hard.
yeah. It has
Yeah.
because
I don't know. I guess it's part of, so you moved away from your family. So your life is like away from your family. But like for me, anytime I make a decision, I feel like I'm choosing to do this instead of being with my parents. Like
wow.
every moment of my life, I have that guilt.
Wow, that's a guilt. They instilled a guilt in you, probably not on
Yes.
purpose.
And Lily too,
Yeah.
like little girl all alone without
Yeah.
siblings.
So it's like that's where a lot of like I do feel that where a lot of that I mean, I have not a closer relationship, but I would say it's easier for me to make an effort to get in contact with my parents than say my brother who just moved down to Florida, because when I was in the house alone, it's like, all right, I'm their only thing, you know what I mean, in this
Yeah.
area. So I have to like, talk to them and
Yeah.
do the whole thing. And so it's like when you're an older sibling or I mean, you still kind of felt that, obviously.
Yeah.
Like you said, you feel that a lot, but definitely to a different degree than Lily does.
Yeah. Lily's kind of interesting situation.
Yeah. And so I guess like a lot of who you are, again, I think youngest are more self-aware about it,
Mm.
but it really does, like birth order does impact. Like youngest is like, I'm obviously the youngest, you know what I mean? Out here trying to do,
Yeah.
like get attention, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like trying to prove something to the world or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think, but that's again who I am as myself. As a 23, I guess I'm 24 now. Like I am that person, whether it is because of my birth order or not. Like that's who I am. So it's like for you, you are somebody who, while yes, you're still relating to your family and trying to, stay in touch and do the whole family thing, and you feel like you're a big part of that, which you are. But it's like in your own life, out with your group of friends. It's like, are you acting as that older sister? Are you acting as that that person that's focused on a certain amount of discipline, organization, that sort of thing?
It's so funny because I remember getting so mad at my one friend in high school because she was like, "Oh, Anna, she like called like first of all, basically, I do not want to be the mom of the group. Like I'm very sensitive if someone alludes to that. And I think maybe in high school I was kind of the mom of the group because I was like, I'm just like a nerd. Like I was just scared of like getting in trouble. So I was like, oh, we should like not do this or whatever. So I think it seemed like that. But now I don't think that I'm considered a mom of any group. But that's because like I said, I'm going through an era of selfishness, number one. And then also, but also I'm just like by selfishness, I mean like, I'm just a very, I'm not a planner. Like,
Okay.
I'm not a mom of the group because I don't plan anything. I'm like my friends from high school and college plan trips, and I definitely go.
Yeah.
But I never know what's happening until I get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
There
that's
for a
fair.
good time.
Yeah.
So I purposely flip. When I'm with my friends, I try not to take responsibility.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So you're kind of still feeling out who you are, like aside, outside of your family identity, which is
Yeah.
important for sure.
Honestly,
Yeah, well, it's crazy because I have like a best friend who says that I'm like an older brother to him. I'm like, I don't want that. Don't put that on me. You know what I mean? I'm not. I am very obviously a youngest sibling,
If someone like if one of my friends called me their older sister, I would freak out.
yeah, yeah. Well, again, it's because for sure you know how you are, within
Yeah.
your family, and it's like I don't want to be with that in any other relationship besides this one.
I think it's so funny the idea of someone like opening up and being really vulnerable, and you're like, nope, no, don't do that.
Well, it's just like a big realization for me. And it was like now that I realize that, I do kind of want to be the older brother. So it was like at first I was averse to it, but now it's like, all right, well, if he sees me that way, then maybe I should fulfill that role in that
Yeah,
way.
maybe that's like kind of like I don't know. Did that make you happy at all? You're like, oh, I get to be the older brother.
A little bit because have always wanted to be the older sibling,
Oh,
but I just naturally don't, fall into that pattern of.
you're like, I'm just naturally doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah, not even that anymore as much. But yeah, so I think there is a lot that goes into that. There's so much that goes into like birth order and like identity and all the variables and everything. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the same way with, you know, like zodiacs, right? So, or it's like, yeah, you can have like your main zodiac sign, and then there's rising moons and suns and all that sort of different thing.
They make it work. It's like, oh, you don't fit? I know why.
I know how to make it fit. Well, which is what big debate about like birth order, because a lot of people try to be like, well, I think you're an oldest, and you're like, no, I'm not an oldest. Who's like, this is why I thought you were an oldest though, and then they like, put you in a certain sense. So it's like when people meet Lily, your youngest or whatever, like, are you an only child or are you an older sibling or something like that? And he's like, no, but here's why. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can definitely like explain into in a way a lot of the things. But like I was saying, like it's crazy. This is interesting because that's just like, so it's crazy that we're doing this today. I think the Queen died.
The Queen did die. That's what we were supposed to talk about at the beginning.
R.I.P. Queen, by the way. Sorry. God bless the Queen.
God rest her soul.
God rest her soul.
Yeah, God eat your greens. Go ahead.
Yeah.
God bless the
Don't
Queen.
be a queen.
Yeah, don't be a queen. Yes, queen.
A queen of England.
But queen.
Because you'll die. Because you'll die probably today.
Yeah.
If you're the queen of England today, you're gonna die.
You will die. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Luckily, the odds of you being the Queen of England are pretty low.
Pretty low.
But no, I always thought, okay, because I'm like a huge Jane Austen fan. And so a lot of her books have to do with like in England at the time, like the law of primogeniture, which is like, probably didn't pronounce that correctly, but basically the fact that all the land always went to the oldest boy. And then like all her romantic problems are always because like it's a family of all women and all of them have to get married because none of them can provide for themselves. Anyways, I always thought that was so crazy that the law like went into the family. Like the law introduced money and power dynamics into the family so clearly like that. Like the fact that the older brother got all the money. That's just what happened. And then the younger brother usually had to go into the clergy. And I mean, women just had to get married. But I just feel like, or go into the convent. But I just feel like that I always was like, oh my God, how do you be close with your siblings if you always grow up knowing that this one guy is going to like be a baller and be like a lord, and then you have to be a priest? Yeah.
Well, do you think that's where we get a lot of the birth order traits from, is like from that historical, like oldest sibling? Again, I mean, it is inherent that the oldest sibling is going to be the one to take care of the family in general, but when you're born into a family that has some sort of political power or anything, then at that point it's like, all right, this person it's just kind of exemplified,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like just so in our culture. It's not so much in our laws anymore, but like these things we're talking about with birth. Yeah.
Sorry, I used the wrong word.
Oh, no. Right. These things that we're talking about with birth order, like these pseudoscientific things, like that used to just be the law, that the older one was in charge and the other ones didn't matter.
Yo, they made birth order the law. Yeah. That's crazy.
They were like, we have no scientific proof for it, so we're just going to make it illegal. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think about that a lot. Like with siblings, like I don't know, the little different barriers to being close with your siblings.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like I feel like siblings always talk about like they get jealous of each other because they don't get attention from their parents, or like being jealous that one is their parent's favorite.
Yeah.
Do you think your parents have favorite? Because I'm saying coming from me, parent favoritism has never been something I'm worried about. Well, number one, because I'm pretty sure I'm both my parents' favorite, but also because like that just like I don't know. I guess my parents did a good job of like I really always felt like they like none of my siblings are competitive of our parents' love.
Huh.
I don't know, but I feel like that is an issue that maybe it's just on TV shows and movies and stuff.
No, I mean, I think I listened to a podcast recently where it was just like parents talking about their kids, and well, that's not the whole podcast, but they were talking about their kids in the podcast. They were talking about, I was like, oh yeah, I have a favorite, but it changes every day. You know what I mean? It was just like a different, and I think like I said, there is definitely something that goes into that though, right? So like the youngest wants the attention all the time. They do get a lot of the attention from the parents, but it's in a different way. Yeah, I think especially between the first two, especially if you're any type of middle child, you're fighting for love out here. The oldest, I think, oftentimes is probably pushing away love because they experience too much of their parents' attention.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely like a certain power dynamic that goes into it within your the attention and love that you're trying to feel from your parents.
Yeah. That's just something like that always just feels like a problems in books that I'm like, oh, I never really encountered that in my life.
Yeah, that's true. I think at this point, I mean, often books are over dramatized as well for the story of it.
True.
Hopefully, if you haven't felt that, then you probably have a good family, right?
Yeah, my parents are nice. They definitely love us a lot. Hopefully that covers up some of the other stuff I said.
And we love our parents.
Yes, we both love Parents Loving Podcast.
Yes, Parents Loving Podcast. PLP. Yeah, so I think that might be a good place. Was there anything specific that you wanted to cover with birth order, or did we kind of go over? Just feel like we've been all over the place with it.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think if I have any specific bones to pick. No, I think the only agenda I had to say is that being the oldest daughter is the worst.
Being oldest
and
is the worst.
I'm mad about it. And I think that's my only political agenda I have from this podcast. So
okay.
I said that.
We pushed it.
I said my piece.
Yeah, totally. And I think that you should realize as a youngest sibling, maybe it's not that bad, but it's fine. Yeah. We're good.
Oh, yeah. You did make me. I always do remember that I should be nicer to Lily.
Good. That's good.
I'll try to make her feel. So what should I do to Lily? Make her feel what?
Make her feel like she's a person and that her thoughts are valid, as opposed to being like, "Oh, that's a cute thought." You know what I mean?
That's exactly what it is.
As opposed to judging her thoughts, just accept them as a thought. You know?
Okay, like instead of being okay. Don't think she's cute, but she's so cute.
But she's so cute.
She's so cute though. She's so cute and little.
Any advice for a younger child? See, this is what younger children do. They're just looking for advice, anyways.
Okay, let me think. Advice for a younger child?
Yeah.
I would say Lily's very nice. Lily's very sweet and like will be like, I'm so grateful, like I have you. So that's like nice to express that to the older like sibling. Maybe be like, oh, I'm grateful for the guidance. Like just verbalize that.
Oh yeah, being like grateful because we are spoiled. So being
just like
that
straight
you're
up saying thank you.
Yeah.
And then also I'm trying to think. I'm like trying to think if they're about actions besides words. Like words are always like I'm trying to think of like something you could do. Like I don't know. I love being, as Lily gotten older, like being able to, which is probably where you are now, being able to like be really friends with your siblings. I don't know. I guess just like when you're with them, maybe like take responsibility for a little thing.
True.
And take it off their back.
You should take responsibility for everything in your life, I think, right? You know, not just...
I'm trying to think about what I mean by to take responsibility.
Well, a lot of times, yeah, the youngest is probably like, well, this happened because this happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, well, the older sibling, there's a lot of, you didn't have any control, technically, as a younger child. Yeah. Is what you feel like as the youngest. But in reality, when you start making things happen, you have a lot of control, and you got to take responsibility for that.
Yeah. See, you made that deep. I meant like do the dishes.
Oh.
Like
yeah, do the
like
dishes.
Lily doesn't do the dishes.
Well, do the dishes, Lily. Come on.
Yeah. This is now an anti-Lily
podcast. Yeah, we went from Parents Loving Podcast to an anti-Lily.
Yeah.
All right.
I love her so much.
Well, yeah, it's good. All right. Well, I think we got that covered. Anna, thanks for coming out. This is your Instagram. I put it up here for you.
Yeah, thank you.
You should follow her. She's got shows around the city all the time. You were just in Wildwood. Was that a fun one?
Yeah, it was so fun. I mean, I was awesome. It was at the beach. It was a huge crowd. It was outside. It was good.
Anything else you want to promote?
No. The Insta's great. That is the worst at
You don't have to point
ever
it. No,
seen.
I take
You
responsibility.
got nervous
for that
during
shitty-
that.
I was like-
But
that's funny.
but no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. This is so much fun.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks so much.